Underpainting dates back to almost the 16th century. True or false? So TikTok went crazy with this whole underpainting makeup technique that became viral all of a sudden, when it is something that makeup artists have been doing for years now. Here I am with a video explaining what underpainting is, how can it be done, how to cater it to your skin type, different methods, does your blush go under or over foundation. I've tried it all on my face here. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Varsha and I love doing makeup videos. If you want to join the fam, don't forget to press the subscribe button and hit the like button if you like videos like this, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this one. So let's get to work. Underpainting. Just like any look, we are going to start with the setting spray. This is the one from EVIAN. So I sprayed this mainly because my skin is parched. Especially, I don't know if you watched my previous video, which is my Valentine's Day video. I was still pretty sick in that month, so my skin is like dry. So I thought this is like that cup of coffee. BIOSSANCE serum. What we want hyaluronic serums to do is attract moisture from the atmosphere. For that to happen, it's better to have a little bit of moisture on your skin already. Under my eyes as well, I just like to apply this because it just has like this nice rapid plumping action that happens. While I still have a little bit of that serum still like sinking into the under eye area, I'm gonna apply my favorite eye cream and I'll just like tap this into my skin here. And for my face, I'm using the It Cosmetics Confidence in a Cream. And I like to put a little extra. Most important thing about skincare, since we are applying products directly onto the skin, we want it to be very nicely moisturized, even with a little bit of slip if possible, because it'll just help move and melt products around. That's all. Just make sure you have your skincare in place. Oily skin people, just make sure you use a gel-based moisturizer or something that is fit for oily skin. I'm actually going to do my color correction and come back. Woohoo! I'm back. I also went ahead and just conceal my eyelids a bit, because to underpaint, you actually kind of need to bring your bronzer on here as well, and if I don't correct, I feel like that color would be lost. If you have pigmented eyelids, go ahead and conceal them because it makes it easier for the eye look as well. So before we move on to actually doing some underpainting, I wanted to throw a little bit of history. Underpainting is actually a technique for creating art. It is basically you trying to create any kind of skeletal work of what you want to create. For example, if I wanted to do a nice smoky eye, I would start with placing a much darker color, preferably in the tones that I wanted to eventually be in, on top of my eyelids here. And what we're doing is basically using that technique for your face. The most notable artist who did this kind of work was Titian, and this was around the 16th century, like high Renaissance. Now traditionally, underpainting was done on a colored background, and then you kind of build your framework on top of that. What we have here today is a colored background. We have our skin that'll act as a canvas, and think of it of how you want to start your picture, but starting with shadows and highlights. So once you start working with your shadows and highlights is when you create depth to your image, to your picture, to your face. One fun fact about underpainting in relation to art was that it was actually a technique used by most artists to calm down their anxiety, when they stare at a blank face. Now mostly makeup artists prefer to work with creams because they are easy to blend into one another, because once you start adding a powder is when the texture changes and it no longer sort of blends. In makeup, there's a general rule of how you finish all your liquids first and then you move on to your powders. Now when you apply a contour, you don't want to use a brush that is too big, because for example, this is a brush that is a little more bigger than what I would use. If I use this to apply my contour, it's going to get onto such a large surface area, something that I don't want, because I'd rather place it more precisely first and then blend it out, rather than going in a larger area and then having to do more work to fix that. Here I have two brushes. So this brush has a dense bullet-like shape, so it makes precise application a little more easier. And this is a Real Techniques setting brush, which is again a densely packed brush, but it is smaller in size. So it makes it quite easy once again for precise application because of the shape of the brush. If you can see, it has that little pointy end. Since I'm a little more used to using the Makeup by Mario stick, that's what I'm going to stick to. Saturate this brush, and I want to lightly start applying this just like the way I would apply my contour. Now you guys must know that you can actually even use a bronzer to do this. Just saying, like if you don't have a contour stick, you don't have to worry. It is, by the way, going to look a little crazy in the beginning. The makeup technique is meant to look so flawless because all your bronzer and blush, it just peeks through. Everything has this very blended, beautiful, you know, veil-like feel to it. Also using this here, and I'm pulling this into my temple. I'm going to take something like this, a nice brush that will just evenly blend out everything. I would have gone in with my beauty blender, but why I do not want to use this is mainly because if I use this later on for my blush, everything starts mixing up and looking a little muddy. So you want to keep a separate brush for your bronzer and a separate brush for your blush. I'm just lightly taking it over these areas. You don't have to blend it out until like nothing is left because, well, nothing is technically left, but you just want to kind of soften up the look. So then here you want to go more over the edges rather than actually buff and blend that out. And I'm very lightly going to use this on my nose as well, just to shape that up a little bit. You may want to go on the sides of your nose, so you could probably just go ahead and do that. And I'll just go ahead and start blending out those two lines. Finally, it's time for blush. So what I have here is this Milk Makeup blush. It's a really nice, pretty pink. I don't know if there's some cat hair sticking to it. I'm going to use it on top, on this side of my face. I'm going to use it under, as in right now, on this side of my face. And once we put the foundation, I think we would have a better idea of which side looks better. Apply this just where I would my blush. This is the KJH brush number 2. I'm only pressing it into the skin, really, not pulling it, because if I pull it, you know, I don't want it to mix with like other things. Maybe I'll just add a little here because this is another part that I generally put some blush on. Coming back to the basics, we created depth on the face by using our contour product or your bronzer. We brought in a little bit of color using the blush, and now it's time for highlight. I am using my Born This Way concealer. I like to go like one shade lighter, not two. Sometimes I feel two looks a little too harsh. If you are a person of color, just make sure you've color corrected. Otherwise, all those gray tones are just gonna come right back. I'm using the smallest brush now because this requires the most pinpointed placement. This area where I want to highlight, also up here because this really lifts up the face for that nice inner corner sort of bright highlight. And once again, just pull the eye upwards. Then we're going on the forehead. Blend this out very gently, just in pressing motions once again, because we have placed all of that color corrector underneath, right there, and also right here. I know, looking really crazy, right? Even I'm like, what? Now comes the final part, which is your foundation. Now you want to use something that is sheer, a foundation that is sheerer, not something that has too much coverage, because once again, if you use something that has too much coverage or is a full coverage foundation, it's actually going to end up covering all this hard work that you did. I mean, you did put some time into it, right? Now, if you have a stick foundation at home, I would suggest that you warm it up on the back of your hand and work it in with your beauty blender. I'm just going to use this Rare Beauty one that I have. This is a tinted moisturizer though. There are two ways of applying your sheer foundation. One is just by literally bouncing it on your beauty blender and just going all over your face. And the second way is you work your brush into this product, you apply it where you've not applied anything, and then you sort of go and bounce it in with your beauty blender. On one side, I'm going to do it just with the beauty blender. Very lightly, I'm just bouncing this. I would need a little extra product on this part of my face. I can see like everything sort of very gently blending into each other. I really like it, but I feel like I have definitely lost some intensity of that contour that I wanted. So maybe I could have gone with it a little more heavy-handed, I don't know, but I mean, it's not bad. It still looks like I have some shape. Now let's try on this side with the brush and the beauty blender. By the way, if you guys have any kind of acne, a good tip is actually to do this just like the way I'm doing it right now, and then you can go in with some pinpoint concealing for taking care of really tiny marks or problem areas without, you know, weighing down your skin. With anything on the brush, I'm just like going over, and we're just going to stamp and bounce the beauty blender. I definitely feel like I like this side more because I didn't lose any of that contour. You can kind of see it peeking through. I definitely prefer the brush application method. This is mainly because of the fact that you can control how much product you are applying on top or where you're applying it. Before I go and start setting my under eyes, I'll just do the blush on top here like how I had planned, because I feel like this way you can kind of control how much blush you want. And also, speaking about control, if you are generally scared of contour or something, doing underpainting like the way I did on this side is a very easy way for you to just dial down things if you feel like you've gone a little too far. And I'll just use this brush to gently pat into the skin. Next, I'm going to just set my face with a little bit of this translucent powder, sharpen up a little bit of this. Also, while we are on the subject of setting, this look is generally a little more dewy looking, so if you are not a fan of that, you can actually go in with a light veil of powder. You can use something like this, I mean, just to really just go all over your face. And also, if you've done any kind of pinpoint concealing, you would want to set that too. I'm going to use just a dot of this, go over this area just to bring some light there. Okay, I'm gonna do my eyes real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, let's call this side 1 and side 2 for like better reference. I clearly know who the winner is. I really feel that I had better control over the whole process with the brush and the beauty blender. So for me, honestly, side 1 is the winner. Anyway, even if you try this and you feel like you've lost some intensity, you can literally just go in with some blush and just like touch up any areas that you want, or you can obviously go in with a little bit of your bronzer as well. On side 2, I lost a little bit of intensity with my concealer here. I feel like my dark circle has a little more tendency of showing through the day if I went with makeup like this. Now, you know, my final step in all my videos is to take a pressed powder and go with it on the center of my face. But here's a tip for people with oily skin. You guys can literally do everything, right? Like the same step. So I'm talking contour, your blush, your highlight. And then instead of using a cream foundation, you can actually go in with a powder foundation. With this powder now, I'm just refining the texture on my skin. I love though how everything looks very subtle and toned down. You know, the blush looks like it's just peeking through. The tinted moisturizer gave this beautiful veil of coverage. Just very light, just what's necessary, and it's really letting the skin show through too. So I am pretty obsessed with this one. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to press that subscribe button. Alright everyone, I'll see you guys soon. Take care and bye-bye.